Ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:31. And Christine, you want to do roll call?
Mike Baker.
Here.
Sarah Thompson.
Here.
Janice Baker. Here. Kat Stone.
Here.
Tom Trotter.
Here.
Lonnie Rainville is absent. Jim DeLapp is currently absent.
Okay. Kat, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
No.
Will you
I
anyway,
will.
please?
No. I will. I'm American. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to item number 4, consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes and the preventive maintenance report?
Yeah.
Are there any questions or comments?
I have an objection to the minutes and the lack of recording and everything. 4 o'clock in the morning, I wanted to call the Attorney General of the state. And so I just decided to just make an objection because I feel the minutes are abbreviated and they don't reflect the content that's missing historically because we don't have a recording. But I'm just going to go on the record because I have other things to do with my life. And I'm sure that it won't happen again.
So when we start the meeting, it's set to auto record. And when we turn it on, it says meeting recording in progress. But the recording was just not there.
And
So
I get it, it's technology. And so at 4 a.m. I just need to have a shot of whiskey and go back to sleep. So it's neither here nor there. We can't bring it back. We can't make it be not what it is.
Perhaps we need back it.
And I think that we'll just going forward, it'll kind of fill in what's missing. So
I'll move to approve the consent item.
I'll
Consent
second
agenda.
that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, item 4 passes unanimously.
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
Is that with the amendment?
with the amendment of Jen.
so do you need clarification on
The
that?
minutes do need to be completed for the secretary's name.
Yeah, that's what Janice, yeah.
Is that what you need, Christine?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
Moving on to 5.1, the financial report. Sherry?
Yep, we should be using about 17% of the budget at this point. Our income is at 17.49, so right now our income's in line with our budgeted expectations. Payroll is about 13% and material and services as a whole has come in at about 12.8%. So far I don't see any potential issues that could arise. I think we budgeted really well for our fuel and oil, which was kind of the big concern, I think, when we developed the budget, and so far we're staying under, so we're doing okay. Some of the categories may be over, for instance, like your dues and memberships, but it's just because when I built the budget, I took it and I split it up. I averaged it over per month. So there's going to be some months where like this past month, the OTA membership fell, and so it's like $2,400, but by the end of the year, it's gonna all, it's all gonna jive. So nothing to be alarmed about when you see something like that. But if you do have questions about something, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to go over it with you. Because with that, like for instance, in the dues and memberships, if I removed the OTA, we'd be at 8%, but it just, like I said, I averaged it over per month, not in the month that it fell. Medical transports, we're still doing really well. That's still been a really good source of revenue for us on with MTM. Year to date, we've brought in 76,428, so just for the 2 months.
Wow, really good.
The expenditures for the volunteers has been 33,299, so our profit's been 43,000 in 2 months, so
Nice.
a little over.
It's $450,000.
That's what I
Federal
was
funds.
looking for.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Huge.
yeah, it is, it's huge. So, really happy to see how that's turning out for us, but all in all, I don't see anything that's, that looks to be any potential issue that might arise, so we're doing okay. You do have any questions?
I do, but it could be addressed later, because I'm new to it, so that I've probably got a whole bunch of questions,
Okay,
and so I think it could be handled later on.
Yeah, just give her a call during the week and
Pardon?
just give her a call during the week and ask away. Yeah.
ask
Well, no,
away.
I just actually got through it
Yeah.
yesterday and this morning, so, you know, and I got my notes and I highlighted and go, how come, why, you know, and some of it is understandable. We've already addressed some of them, you know, because I read it earlier on my PDF. I'm reading it, you know, but now I've got it, and so I highlighted it, and then some of them, it's like you say, you had to split them up and changed it. So,
Yeah, I just averaged everything. I took it as a
Right.
whole, like the expenditure for the year, and then I just divided it by 12.
right,
Because sometimes we never know when something's gonna maybe fall, but even like the
OTA was a 20% bump.
yeah, it was, but it's in our budget. It just is budgeted for the whole, you know, as a,
Right.
for the whole year.
Hmm.
And like the drug and alcohol, we don't know when we're gonna hire someone, so we may have months and months and months where we don't have anything, and then all of a sudden we may have, you know, $300 or
Right,
something, and so it will look wonky for the month, but if you look at it as a whole for the year, it's gonna be okay.
sounds reasonable.
Okay, yeah, but if you have any questions, let me know.
I'll move to approve the August financial report.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike and a second by Kat. Any questions or further discussion? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item 6, public comment for on agenda items only. Is there any public present in the room?
Online,
Anybody online? Okay, moving on to item 7, old business, 7.1.1 board bylaws.
So the recommended changes are on your cover page. And they're the same ones that we discussed at the last meeting. Unfortunately, Ron Sperry is not able to make it tonight. He had a conflict due to multiple trials that he took on for somebody else. So he has a summary to answer the questions that were asked at the last meeting. And he's going to provide that. He'll send that to me in the email this next week. And you guys will have opportunity to review it, and then he can be present at the next meeting.
excellent, excellent.
Okay.
I was concerned.
So does that need to be tabled then till next meeting?
It's up to you guys.
I don't know why we need to.
Yeah, because we
Okay.
can do amendments anytime. We already decided that, so we might as well not drag it. We can bring it up again later.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to adopt the board bylaws as edited.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion by Mike, second by Tom. Any discussion? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. And secondary motion will be entertained to approve the amended board protocols.
So moved.
So I guess, has everybody had a chance to review the updated protocols?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments on that? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the protocols.
I'll second.
Cat, motion, and Jim second to approve the amended board protocols. Any discussion? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to new business, 8.1 coordinated plan.
So we have Krista Purser with Kittleson and Associates on the screen with us. And
Welcome, Krista.
I am just gonna let her take it from here. There's a pretty good explanation on the cover
I
page.
have it. Is it on, there we go.
Share.
There you go.
I'm seeing Zoom right now. If it's the slide, Cheryl, they're pretty brief and I can talk through those just fine. Or if you'd
The
like me to share
slides-
my,
Yes, if you would share your screen,
sure. All right, there we go.
there we go.
There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me back. You've seen my face before, Krista Purser with Kittleson in our Portland office. I'm just following up on the update to the coordinated plan. A lot of the coordinated plan, if you page through it, you'll see some similar information to the transit master plan, but we really just wanted to highlight what's changed since then during this.
We don't have your screen yet.
Interesting. It is.
You have to go to the top and go to view options because Cheryl's sharing her screen also. It says, so if you go to view options and click Krista's shared screen.
Let me know when we're all set. Sorry, was that instructions for me or for those in the room?
For those in the room.
Where am I going?
Up at the top, it says view options at the very top in the middle. At least on my screen it does. And then there's shared screens and mine was clicked on Cheryl, but you have to click to Krista.
There we go.
That's beautiful.
All right, sounds like you can see it. Wasn't watching this, just the cover page there. All right, we'll get into this. For those of you less familiar with coordinated plans, historically, these are the plans tied to the $5310, the elderly and disabled services, with the merging in of STIF really expanding out who we're looking at for these plans. So really trying to focus on those who are more transit dependent, and looking just beyond Umpqua Transit's services, looking at private providers too, trying to understand how these services are currently being used, and what they may need to provide a lot of medical transportation, but other types of transportation trips. So looking for those duplications, where the gaps are, what needs there are, and prioritizing some strategies. So we've got a good amount of this work done from the Transit Master Plan, but just had a few more things to wrap up and tie in here. So what we did with that, did reach out to the different medical transportation providers, senior services, tried to get calls with them and talk to them about what they're hearing from their clients, how they're operating their service and how they can better work together to make things more efficient and better serve the community here. So we've reflected within this more of the existing transportation services, new needs that came out of that outreach, and then a few implementation strategies related to those needs. Just wanted to pull this up and highlight for those less familiar, our primary medical transportation provider through those CCOs, Umpqua Health Alliance, but there is a good amount of overlap with the Trillium plan there, and then in South County with All Care. So we were able to talk to the neighboring providers as well. And I think out of those conversations, Cheryl, you were going to pursue a contract to kind of work together better with the All Care's transportation provider, which was a nice immediate outcome out of these conversations. Beyond what we had initially identified as needs from the transit master plan, a lot of back end things. And this is something that's not unique to public transportation providers, but the private providers were having trouble obtaining drivers for their services. Volunteer drivers for medical gap service versus their paid ones. Marketing and education came up a lot. A lot of people who weren't sure what they were eligible for, what services existed, especially in some of the rural areas where they may not have as much access to the internet and what's out there. So really talked about what organizations you could be working with, types of places where you could be posting flyers to help people know what's out there for transportation. We did see an increase in rides requested as well. A lot of people were talking about gas prices being a barrier, so that increase in demand, not only from the limited drivers and supply side, but people looking toward these public services further. So we added in a few strategies. A lot of the transit master plan had fixed route service recommendations, and then there's those recent dial-a-ride paratransit shifts. So really saw the need to continue monitoring that. I know the request for day of trips came up a few times from some of the medical providers. And previously the demand was too high to accommodate that. So that's something we'd want to be monitoring in the future. We talked about incentives to attract more of the paid drivers and be able to pay for training, other things they'd need to be able to hold that position and be competitive against other job opportunities. And then leveraging those local organizations, agencies, again, to market those transportation services and kind of as a continuation of the transit marketing plan that's going on now. That's it for me on slides. I'll stop sharing my screen. I believe, Cheryl, you have some copies of that around. We're making a few minor updates just related to the naming and branding of different services, but happy to take any other questions about the purpose of this plan, what it does moving forward, or anything else.
So this is just the slides. And then the other is the coordinated plan. So there were a couple of changes that we realized that we had not updated the reference to UTrans Direct paratransit instead of the Umpqua Rides paratransit. The reference to Drive Less Connect, it is now rebranded to something Oregon. I would have to take, I did not bring my notes for this.
Get there, Oregon.
They're Oregon, or yeah. So those were just minor, minimal changes that we needed to update. And so Christina actually got the updated version of this, and she can forward it out to you either in a PDF or we can print copies for you as well. But there was nothing that changed the substance of the plan.
Prices changed as well, right?
Pardon?
In the June meeting, didn't we approve a price change for fares?
Oh, yeah, so that is part of the transit master plan, and that was a separate thing. This is a coordinated plan.
Okay.
That's a requirement for our 5310 funding.
Yeah.
That takes a broader scope and looks at all of the transportation services in Douglas County, or the service area, which for us, of course, is Douglas County.
Yeah, I was curious about the prices listed on here, so they
Oh,
seem different than what we agreed. So I'm just not understanding or
what page are you on?
page 10, where it talks about fixed route, and it talks about the fares briefly on the top, second paragraph.
Oh, Yes, you are quite right. I missed that entirely. So we did reduce the fares to $1 one way, $3 for a day pass. Okay, we can update that as well. And 50 cents for the seniors and people with disabilities, veterans ride free.
I
Okay,
think it's
so
$2 for a day pass.
is it two?
Mhm.
And then the paratransit fare is also, it is $2. All right, so I missed that entirely.
Good catch.
And then the man is $1 trip.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the part you're talking about was just like where it says U-Transit should be UPTD, right?
For
could-
the, where it says paratransit Roseburg.
Or like on the same page, it's at the top where it says U-Trans, and then there's a note, it says 2.
Oh, so yes, we had rephrased that UPTD and then U-Trans is the fixed route services.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we still use that name.
Yes.
Okay,
And then where it says paratransit Roseburg,
Yeah.
instead of U-Trans Direct, that is now Umpqua Rides
okay.
paratransit.
Yeah, I was confused, I guess, about the U-Trans thing. I thought we had fully dropped that name.
Yeah,
For the fixed route service, it's still what the public recognizes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like
But-
that name personally, but
What's that? Are you trans?
yeah.
is there a plan to change it from U-Trans eventually or to?
That is dependent on you as the board.
Ah,
I mean, it would make it clear to keep the names simpler, but I kind of like the name U-Trans, but UPD is all one, that would make it simple.
mhm.
The UPTD, yeah.
And when they research on the internet or they're
Yeah.
searching for whatever, it would just be better if we just use the UPTD.
And if it confuses me, then I'm sure it confuses plenty of people.
Yeah, yeah. I do have a question about the plan, the coordinated plan, and what is the time frame for the plan? How long is it good for? I mean, like
3
when,
years.
just 3 years? Okay, and are we held to it in some sort of legal respect, or is it amendable if we need?
Oh, so yes, we want to plan on updating it at a minimum every 3 years. And the purpose of it is if we have something identified that we want to provide a new service or a different service, a change to a service, build a new transit center,
Yeah,
things that aren't identified in our transit master plan. And they need to be identified in a plan in order to apply for funding. So this is the short-term plan,
Mhm.
and then the transit master plan is the long range plan. But this is definitely something that we would update at a minimum every 3 years.
But we wouldn't update it in between. I mean, we're held to it for 3 years.
We could, at the board's request, absolutely, we could update it more often if necessary.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, is if it could be amended in between, or we're held firmly to what we have here for the length of that time.
Mhm.
And that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
If I could add to that, Cheryl, we described these as things we want to do with the system, and we did identify the short, mid, long range prioritizations, but we also include in there that if the funding or the priorities shift over time, this isn't something set in stone. It is something that needs to flux with what your opportunities and needs are. So this is, looking into our crystal ball, what we would see as the priorities. But it's not that you can't do a midterm opportunity when you haven't done all the short terms yet. You can jump and shift as you need.
Wonderful, thank you, Krista.
I was just trying to find it on the website, but I can't find it. It looks like Douglas Rides isn't working anymore. But that's what Umpqua Rides refers you to. So it says there's nothing there. Go to Douglas Rides, but Douglas Rides is not there anymore. So that might be something we need to
It
fix.
says to,
Umpqua Rides, it says Umpqua rides just says. Oh, now it's coming up weird. It was just, oh, it just said this section under construction, please visit www.douglasrides.org for more information.
Okay, I need to kind of check about the website then.
And so it's, yeah, there's nothing under Douglas, right? But my question was, and what I was looking for was, I see seniors here is 65, but I thought on the website it showed 60.
60.
But in here it says, it shows, talks about populations over 65 as senior over age 65.
But in the fare structure, it says over 60.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's where I saw it, but over here it says that under the demographic, why would we look at seniors as population at 65? Wouldn't it be over 60 if we define seniors as being 60 in our area?
That's a question for Krista.
Why not 55?
Well, 60.
It has to do with the federal
Yeah,
rules for, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, federal rules, and I do see Jennifer has her hand up and may be able to shed more on that.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah, I was just gonna give a little background also for Kat on the funding. A 5310 funding does require you to have a coordinated plan. So when you're putting in your projects, it has to be identified in your coordinated plan in order to be funded. So that's the main reason for that. And it used to be also for the STF funding, and now STF has moved over into STIF. And then as far as the age you choose to pick, 65 is the age that is the target. You don't want to have anything above 65, but if your agency identifies elderly and disabled or elderly, older adults as 62, you can list 62. And if you identify them as 60, you can have that listed as 60 in your plans.
I think the census,
More, but you can't have less.
I think the census data refers to population over 65. Is that? Yeah, so in the demographic indicators, that's where the census data referred to. Is why we chose that.
So are we locked in at 60 or 65?
Apparently, well, I mean, it gives us a population data of 65, but really we use 60, so we don't know what number that is.
Okay,
Well,
just as long as
It's in
we're
the-
upfront about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just in the demographic area. It's showing us that the in our area that we serve, the population over 65 is approximately 25% of the population.
I think it's just census data reporting, they take 65. As a, so.
So if we're gonna write for a grant and we don't address something in our coordinated plan, can we update it before we write the grant?
We can amend our coordinated plan, yes.
Okay. Well,
But it has to have appropriate
mhm.
public access to, we have to have meetings that present the project that we want to amend. And it has to be open for public comment. And then it has to be presented at the board meeting. And again, open for public comment. There's that process, the public process.
Yeah, 4 AM meetings on Saturday and Sunday.
No.
That'd be fine with me, I'd still be awake.
Me too.
I have something here on page 12. I don't know if it makes any difference, but on the next to last sentence, it says, as Douglas County Transit District. Should that not be UPTD?
Yes, it should be Umpqua Public Transit
Transportation
District.
District. Because that was a reference to how it used to be.
Yeah,
Just a little error in copy and paste.
Control F and find a match case,
Yeah.
find and replace, that's pretty handy one.
Yeah, it is interesting because the first time I scanned through this, I didn't read word for word. And I told Krista, it looks really good. And then I went back and I read word for word and I went, okay.
That's when you need Sarah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Miss the detail oriented
you know about the find and replace?
Yes.
Yeah. That's my favorite button.
All right.
I was kind of curious just about like the boundaries on some of these maps. So like, especially for Roseburg, what do they use for the boundaries? Is that districts, some sort of elections thing or
Oh,
neighborhood?
it's imaginary. You just try to pin it down and you don't know until you enter your address, what precinct you're in or
So
what
precinct.
zone you're in. It may be precincts.
Yeah, is that like a Roseburg?
The new redistricting, I think it goes maybe down a highway.
The new redistricting changed a number of things.
Mhm.
And I don't have them listed here to refer to. But I actually had to print the maps out for the redistricting, because on the Douglas County website, it refers to the maps that end at the end of 2022. So they're the current maps. But when you're on the state website, the state legislator for the Senate and the House, it takes you to the new redistricted.
And I don't see them down to a detail level that tells you what street or creek or what they're actually doing the, but I found that both of the maps that I've looked at recently. For the fire map, the fire danger map and that kind of thing, those maps are whack. They
Probably
don't know where.
The geographic data is probably tied to whatever that boundary is. So it's not like address space, but boundary based. So
Yeah.
I did
And they
some-
don't, they're not right on the boundaries either.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of, it's not very detailed. So like that 992 pop, I imagine most of it's in like those apartment complexes along down the Gulf.
It's exactly.
But that's not where the data is tied to, like when you do mapping. I did that in college.
It's tied to the census block or. the
Yeah.
census
I
tract.
wonder if you could go down to the county and work on the mapping down there.
And this
I'm
is old
gonna be going
information.
down there this week.
This is from 2010.
Yeah.
This isn't from
Well,
2000.
that's like a census sort of thing, and it's also might be rules from like election standpoint, not collecting the data down to the street level for whatever purpose it might be.
Mhm. None of the maps
Well,
show
after
that
2000
kind of
2020
detail.
on, you can only get it down to the county level.
Yeah,
Which really doesn't help at all.
yeah, but you could do surveys as
Yeah.
a district
Mhm.
to get some more information as well.
The demographic data is the population's projected 2010 census, and then the data is from American Community Survey, and it's the average of the 2014 to 2019 5-year period, which should be the most up to date.
Yeah,
I
Okay,
said, we're lucky to get anything close.
yeah, and as people know that we're, Roseburg or the other areas around, you kind of know where the housing is and you make informed decisions based on that.
So this talks about it talks about information technology, facility improvements that require further evaluation.
Which
And
page
this
are you
is
on?
page 33. And includes things, and I'm just gonna mention some things, fleet fuel types and covered bus facilities. Two things which we got grants for recently, including hybrid electric and CNG. And so it's like, well, they need to be considered further prior to recommendation and implementation. So it's almost like they're not really included in here. Just
They're-
as something that we need to consider in the future, or maybe we need to amend it in the future to allow those kind of things. And yet we got a grant to do those things.
Well, so there were, for the grant, we did a specific plan that was for our zero emissions. Our zero emissions plan.
Yeah, but wouldn't this need to be consistent? No, I know, I understand how we got there to get the grant and then we're in there, but the coordinated plan seems to indicate that we haven't decided those kind of things at all.
Where are you looking?
On 33, right after all the bullets,
Third paragraph from the bottom.
Okay,
it just says they require further evaluation. That would include an electronic fare.
So it
Oh,
was
so-
written before we got the grant, that paragraph.
okay, hold on.
It just doesn't seem consistent, I guess is all I'm saying.
For the bullets, right.
That was written before you got the grant. I think we can revise some of that language to discuss additional facilities. And note that there's already some of that underway.
I leave that in your trustworthy hands, Krista.
Yeah, because we don't want to take it out in case we want to apply for future low no emission grants.
Right, we don't want to take it out, but we also don't want to say it needs to be, needs further evaluation, because apparently we've evaluated it and determined that we need it and got a grant. So,
We have determined that it is.
So maybe instead of further evaluation, it is being evaluated, because they are all things that we are evaluating.
some was being evaluated and some was evaluated and got a grant, we're gonna do it. There's no evaluation, you've got a grant and you've got to do it.
Evaluation, constant reevaluation and updating.
24/7 evaluation.
Yes.
Anyway, this needs to be,
4
it needs to be
a.m.
reworded to indicate that some of those things are underway and that we've got a grant and other things may need to be.
Yeah, it could mention that we got that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when we did our final meeting, going over the coordinated plan that we were gonna present, at that point, we had not received the award.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's got.
But we had applied, so I mean, if we've applied for something even.
Yeah.
Then we've apparently done an evaluation, determined that we want it, because we have to be prepared to deliver it if we get the grant. So
Right,
you
but
can't
if-
say that it needs further evaluation when it really doesn't.
But if we were gonna do, say, CNG, which is listed.
Right,
yeah.
but we don't have a grant for that, and we haven't done that, so.
No,
I'm
we
just saying,
can
for
consider-
the electrical, but for the electric and the covered parking, we
Yes.
have, so. this
Okay.
is not consistent.
Constant reevaluation
Yes,
and assessment.
revisions.
Yeah.
Are you needing a motion on this, Cheryl, or?
Yes, we would need, at this point, we would need a motion to approve with amendments, or we can make the amendments and bring it back to approve next time. But our contract ends, I think, before the end of September.
So you understand what changes we want, so I think I'll just make a motion to accept it with the amendments. Acceptable to the general manager.
And I'll second it.
And then I'll send it out to you guys for review once it's revised. Okay.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to 8.2, resolution 22-5. Bank signatories.
Oh, that is, so every year when we change the chair and vice chair of the board, that changes who are the signatories for the bank. So, and mine has to be redone every year with yours. And it requires a motion that goes along with a letter to the bank. And when we present the letter and the motion to the bank, then they will present the cards back to us for you guys to sign. So that would be Sarah and Kat. Kat's been through this before.
Yes, I have.
Yes. So this would just need a motion and a second.
I'll move for it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to police powers.
So the police powers document was originally adopted by DCTD when we were still Douglas County Transportation District. So there is nothing that and we addressed this at the last meeting. But it requires that it was published along with the agenda, and that has taken place.
So we just need a motion to approve at this point.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the police power this function, sheriff.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Kat, a second by Tom. Any discussion?
None.
Okay, anyone opposed?
I just
Okay,
want to-
motion passes. Moving on to general manager report.
All right, so you actually have a packet tonight on the current page. It gives you a lot of information. But I don't feel that there's a need to, to read through every piece of that tonight, but for review later. So the first piece is the CTAA analysis. So this was a DOT survey that went out to all of the DOTs, looks like 46, is it 36 of them? Anyway, the DOT, oh yes, 46 responses. So it just gives you the information regarding how critical the DOTs across the nation feel the shortage of buses is, and the delay in the supply chain. And so 80% of the respondents are feeling an unprecedented concern or very concerned regarding standard vehicle replacements. So I was just going to provide that as information for you guys anyway. And then the next page is the response that I got from Shetkey. We have 2 of our replacement buses that are ordered through Shetkey. The rest of them are ordered through Northwest Bus. So he lays out here that last year Forest River purchased Eldorado and Champion Bus. So basically what that means is that all of the different types of buses that we that are cutaway buses, which is a body on chassis bus, are now owned by the same company. So it's more or less like a monopoly has been created. Goes into the number of chassis that were manufactured and the shortage. And so that led.
Is that also because of the Buy American clauses? So they're the only one in America, not necessarily Canada or Mexico, but we have to buy from US, right?
Well, we do have a certain percentage of it has to be Buy America, but I don't know that the chassis has to be American made. I don't know about that. So anyway, he goes into detail about the expectation that the cost of our bus is going to be increased. So before, we had discussed once you have a PO through ODOT with a provider that they're held to that price. So what they're saying is they're between Ford and Forest River is that they have had unprecedented price increases, and they're not going to hold to the price. Of course, we're not required to continue on with the purchase order, but you'll want to read through and just pick what you want to see, because it is
It's like we're not gonna hold you to it, but you get in the back of the line if you,
Right.
and then all it'll do is probably just cost you even more later.
exactly.
That's how I
And
read.
that's pretty much what he said.
Yeah.
And you are not obligated by any means, but this is what's gonna hold your place in line. So I did not sign something that said that we were absolutely gonna do it, because I did want to bring it to the board. But I did sign something to keep us in line, but it's not an obligation to buy. Because at that point, I didn't have the prices. Now I have the prices, just got them a couple days ago.
I mean, but the point is, we need to get buses.
Yeah.
And
Well, are we gonna get them any
No, we'll have to get
faster than
buses.
anybody else?
no, and they're not gonna be any cheaper either.
Yeah.
They're gonna be more if we wait. We can wait more and pay more,
Unless,
or we can just pay more and keep our
Unless they've got a wish.
So I
Unless
included.
we could go
all-
somewhere else, but we can't go anywhere else, so.
We have to buy new only.
Yeah,
We can buy cars on Wish.
Uh,
We should be able to buy
so
that.
the purchase order I included just so that you can see the base price, the vehicle options, which include like the lift, the camera system, the choice of seating, those kinds of things. And when we signed up for this, we had 35,919 in vehicle match. But the purchase order was for 21,000 less than what the grant was. The buses that I ordered completely as many amenities on it as we could put, and I wouldn't feel like we were overdoing it, you know. And we still had 20,000 left on the grant. So the grant was for 370,000. So I gave a bit of a summary here underneath the bullet points that show what's in this packet. So the grant number is 34248. It was for this portion of the grant was for the 2 Class C buses for $370,000. That's what was available for the purchase. The new price for the buses is $236,646 per vehicle, for a total of $473,292. So if we move forward, our share becomes $141,291. So it's 100,000, 105,000 more than what it was before. But the real kicker is there's no guarantee that our buses are going to get built in 2023. That's
No,
that's
it
the
says
reality
2
of
to
it.
5 years.
on some of them, yes,
So
yes. And
What's
some of
what's the
the,
likelihood of them walking away from this amount too?
yeah,
And we're not gonna honor that either.
yeah, I don't know.
We're gonna
It
project
just-
to next year.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What this has brought my thinking around to is rehabilitating the buses that we have. When we get to a certain point, we need to look at, instead of retiring our buses, we need to look at like a midlife rehab. But the 5 Class B buses that we have out in the yard that are 2016 buses. They were supposed to be 7 years, so they're due to come up for replacement next year. They're the ones that would be on the next round of grant that we would be asking to replace them. So just a lot of different things that this brings into the planning piece.
mhm.
How do we plan to move forward if we're not going to get replacement vehicles within 2 years of when we order them? Historically, when we were with Douglas County, we were not allowed to order our replacement vehicles until we had completely passed the useful life expectation, both in miles and years. So we
That's
were,
crazy.
yeah. So, it's not something that we typically do order before we've met the useful life expectation, because if you do good preventive maintenance, unless you have a lemon, it's gonna.
That's the
It's gonna
safety and
lose.
operational issue. I
Yeah.
just don't think we want to be there.
So, my thought is we need to go ahead and move forward with this, but as we're moving into looking at projects to present to the committee, okay, and what do we want our committee to be, seeing as they have been the stiff stack committee, but now we are doing away with the STF funding and it's part of the stiff funding. Do we just want it to be the Special Transportation Advisory Committee?
Mhm.
God, that's so simple. I like it.
It's lots easier, yeah. So that's something for another thing, but I just wanted to, for another meeting, I'll bring something forward to change the names so that it will simplify our references and bylaws and stuff.
Are there options to, are there Are there options on the buses that you said you added, that we would look at reducing? Or does that just,
Amenities?
yeah, some of the amenities, the, you know, the big bass that you're gonna put in with the speakers and the radio.
It's all about the big.
But the, are there some of those options that we can reduce, or is it just so minimal that it just really doesn't have much of a?
So I never
on
go
our-
above what we really need. I mean, if we were to reduce, it would be instead of ordering, we order with child safety seats
Mhm.
that will flip out, and it's got the 5-point harness, you know, to help the mom out that
Mhm.
has multiple kids or just wants to have their child strapped in.
Yeah.
And then we also order them with what's called a
Let's
split.
have it indicate.
A split. Never. Grandkids are fine. The split flip
Yeah.
allows you to pull a lever and flip one of the seats up that then gives you space to store either a stroller or some kind of a cart and have it out of the aisle and restrained in the seat space. But those are amenities that are
Pretty
a
minor.
couple of $100, you know, there's nothing that's gonna reduce it by thousands of dollars. The automated voice announcement systems and reader boards, those are really ADA requirements. We can require our drivers to call out the stops like they did in the old days. But that is also, it becomes a
25.2% of our seniors are 65 and older. so that's-
They don't, and the hearing aids are really
Yeah.
expensive.
It probably doesn't call all the stops anyway, right?
well, so we're modifying it to be more in line with what the federal guidelines are, but the federal guidelines say that it's supposed to call every major
Yeah.
intersection. So that's what we're modifying it to add in. And yeah, it calls all of the stops that are on the schedule.
When I was a bus driver, I called out some of the stops, but not a majority of them. Nice to do that. I call out every stop because it really helped out passengers, but
Yeah.
ultimately hurt my voice.
Yes,
Don't
need to
we
work your
have a-
voice stuff.
Don't we have a microphone with a
Yeah.
speaker?
I use the microphone with the speaker, but that's a lot of stops.
Yeah, that is.
And
I guess.
all day
that's-
long.
All day long.
And I work 10-hour shifts sometimes.
all right, so the delay, what that affects, those two buses are the thing that is preventing us from implementing the collector route here in Roseburg that would go from West Harvard Shopping Center through YMCA Staples up through past Colony Market, Calkins, across Troost over to the
Movie theater, social security.
Social Security, yeah. And then
I
the,
probably had to say movie theater and social security, because most people really, well,
they identify what the movie.
25.2% know where the social security
That's
office
right.
is. But the other
Know where the-
74.8% know where the movie theater is.
Yeah.
Well, and the huge request for that area is also the Valley View Counseling, so,
Yeah.
There's dental offices up there too.
yeah.
And
If if we maintain, is there a way where we could get buses on the road if we just did maintenance?
We have all our buses on the road.
Okay, so yeah, I
Except
wouldn't
for
add
one
it.
that we're gonna, we have one that is a 2009.
Yeah.
And to repair it, it's an astronomical
Yeah.
amount.
What is a rehab run?
Depends on the type.
Because you're
of
basically
vehicle.
rebuilding it, right?
Depends on the type of vehicle and whether or not you're gonna
Which
rehab it.
range, just what would you?
About $30,000 for an engine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How much rehab does like that bus need in order to get on the
I
road?
mean, basically replacing the engine and some of those.
Transmission?
Yeah,
Mhm.
components.
the gearbox.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. You probably, well, prior to price increases, the steering box and that type of
Mhm.
replacement in the front axle was about
I'm sure they're doing all that stuff, all those systems, bringing them up.
Yeah. And then
Transformation.
the engine would be over 20,000. And then if you replace the engine, you need to replace the transmission, because if you don't, it'll,
Don't really get into it.
yeah, it's a matter of time And
So how does that
100 grand.
compare? How does that
100 grand
compare with?
for a bus
For those two buses, it's gonna add
versus,
41,000, she said.
versus
Mhm.
300, what were they, 300 or 7? No.
So, and then
Yeah.
if family has to do, we must do.
Yeah, so 40%, that's roughly.
I mean, if we can get a bus on the road that would be safe within the next year, I mean,
Yeah, that's what any
guaranteed bus on
family,
the road.
any family has to do right now is make those kind of adjustments. And
But
if we
they
can
make
do
those
that
parts?
without breaking our
Yeah.
plans and still getting our grants, I think that's what we should do.
So the other piece of that too is the bulk of the vehicles that we have ordered is through Northwest Bus. And so the last time I was doing the updates at the same time, so Northwest Bus, at this point, they have no price increase to pass on to us. When, I don't know, it must have been May or early June, I had an email that was contact me right away as soon as possible. I have to talk to you before Friday. And he had called, he texted everything. He did everything in one day to make sure that I would get back to him immediately. And he said, I need you to sign this document, and this holds our place in line with the chassis for all the vehicles that you've ordered, but they're only opening this up. Ford was only opening it up for 1 week. And so my take on this,
That's
and
the
it's
Ford Lightning.
just, it's just
Yeah.
purely my opinion, but it seems as if Northwest Bus got everything taken care of and in order and has kept us in place, and these guys fell out. Because that was 4 months ago.
So they're having to pay all the increases and stuff, but yeah.
Mhm.
Like Jennifer posted it there and your grant funds expire.
And our grant funds expire in June of next year. Yes,
And that is, we have to have the buses by then, or if we don't have the buses,
yes, we would have to take delivery of our buses. And these grant funds were already extended.
and you don't think that ODOT, or is it ODOT or is it FTA who that would extend those
But-
grants?
So ODOT
I mean,
did,
we're not the only one having the problem, and we're in line.
yeah, so I guess that is probably a conversation that would be happening at ODOT, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it
No.
doesn't seem, I mean, they're obviously not distributing the funds anywhere, they're not going anywhere, but.
Yeah, so interesting. So hopefully with Northwest Bus, we will get the rest of the vehicles, which are some of them were gas vans, some of them were hybrid vans, and some of them were Class D buses. And I believe one Class C. So those could potentially, if we get them, could get us on the road for those 2 new routes. But
Yeah, I would
it's
think- I
we're
would think
really
that-
in a holding pattern.
Yeah, I think the priority would be to get those routes in
Yes.
on
'cause we've
time
been
or
talking
as
about
close
it
to on
since-
time as we can. And if that means extending the life of some other ones, maybe that we're gonna turn in for a little bit while we're waiting for those other 2, then maybe that's what we do. But
Mhm.
Can we get a quote for repairs? Do we have that?
I could get a quote for repairs,
Let's
absolutely.
do that.
So question on that though is if we're already backlogged on new buses, do we have somebody else that is doing the rehabs on buses, or is it gonna be the same kind of timeline where everybody's backed up because they can't get parts?
Just, well, so the thing that's preventing the new builds is the chassis. You don't have new chassis. So the bus that we have already has a chassis. And yeah, so we could probably get a lot of repairs done on it. But they'd be expensive and we'd have to have permission from ODOT because we've already got the title released to send it to auction.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and I'm sure we're not the only ones in this boat.
So
on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On all of them. Yes. Oh, God, you're right.
Jennifer has her hand up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, on the auction of buses, so the FTA changed the rule in November of 2021 as part of the IIJA. So now transit agencies who used to be able to sell the vehicles and put the extra money into an account to use for purchasing additional vehicles or replacement vehicles. Now they're only allowed to keep 5,000 plus a portion of the match that you provided. So we're seeing agencies only being able to keep about $6,000 of used vehicles. And right now you can get bank on used vehicles because people are wanting those chassis to rebuild new buses. So why the FTA did this at this time, hard to say. But what we are recommending is you either donate the bus or, like Cheryl is saying, to get it rehabilitated and then put that back into service. Because you're not going to get the money that you used to be able to get in order to put it towards new vehicles or towards match, which it's really a sad thing that the FTA chose this time in history to make these sweeping changes that are really starting to hurt, especially the smaller agencies.
Can you donate to another transit agency?
You can donate to another transit agency.
We donate RBTD and they donate us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I'm serious.
Yes, you just put it into one nonprofit and get it back.
Yeah.
Except for theirs are CNG.
All of them?
Yeah. Most
Or
of
how
them.
about Joe County or some other lane transit or something? It'd be interesting if we could donate to somebody. And have
I
them
could
donate
start
to
my
that.
own
Just
transit
really swap 'em.
agency over the weekend.
Yeah.
No problem.
And then we've got chassis to fit with it. You know,
I don't know. We'll have to. I'll
Get
look into
creative.
it.
Get
Yeah.
creative, yeah.
At Complete Coach Works, that's what they do is they rehabilitate buses, but I don't know if they do anything other than Gillig. So I'll check into that.
and do we need to change our financial policies or something? Because where it talks about all these things that we could have done, selling buses and things like that. Do we need to amend that with the new rules now? Or?
I believe that our policies point to within the FTA guidelines. So we didn't spell out exactly what the guidelines were. We just referred to,
Oh, I thought somewhere in there it did.
oh, maybe.
You might look, because I think there was some stuff on surplus and giving it to nonprofits.
Oh, yeah.
selling vehicles or something like
Okay.
that. So there might be something in there.
That we need
if I
to
re- If I
review.
remember correctly, yeah.
Okay. Sherry's on it,
How important like transit is in Oregon? Why don't we have steel manufacturing stuff here?
right?
They used to have streetcar manufacturing up north. And I think they still have light rail manufacturing up north, but
Yeah, it would make sense.
and like this seems like it could be opportunity potentially. One of the biggest things would be sourcing the thing is to manufacture the components and chassis and all that, I would
Mhm.
imagine. It might be impossible to do that right now as well. I know like with this is unrelated, but agriculture, like buckwheat's a good crop, but many decades ago, we sold all of our buckwheat processing material to China. And so it's really hard to do that, to start it up again. So it might be similar with manufacturing.
Well, and
Get all the specialties and power and the tool.
Well, plus the skilled people.
with Forest River purchasing Champion bus, that kind of creates a monopoly. Yeah, it's between Forest River and Ford. They have all the power. So.
We gotta think outside the box.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people that are skilled in Oregon to do things.
Yes, there
It's just a matter
are
of getting everybody together and getting something good.
about, they may be over 65.
Oh, there's some smart younger people out there too. like, younger guys are doing like
25.2%.
2%.
That is a problem though, retiring, skill sets. people's
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah,
It is.
because everybody wants to do programming and Uber.
I mean, down here in Douglas County, there's a lot of youth that I work with at UPS that are good with vehicles and even have like their own 3D printers and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
3D print a bus.
There you go.
That'd be something.
I'm not really advocating that.
I think it's great.
I think it has to pass the testing.
Yeah, I would hesitate. Very important, they use new technology to replace the Morrison Bridge. There's a plastic surface with plastic beams, basically, some sort of composite material. And within 4 years, they were just doing a service check on it. And the I-beams had separated in the middle, and it was going like this, and I watched video of it. That's the risk of using new material. So like with
Not knowing, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we move on from this to the next thing, do you guys want to see the travel training video?
yeah,
It's not it's not the final version
Oh, okay.
because they're removing background noises and they're adding subtitles. So it will have subtitles both English and Spanish. And this, okay, so
I don't remember how to do it. Am I sharing screen? I
yes.
am sharing screen. I don't want to do it. I'll fully admit that.
All right, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Is that handsome devil?
I like that. Made that beautiful logo.
Right?
Yeah, I contributed.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is our travel training video. And like I said, it'll have subtitles. And it was a lot of fun.
Do they have the maps on the buses inside that kind of show all the stops?
Not yet.
Yeah,
Those are fun and.
Well, I was just thinking, when he said pull it like a couple blocks ahead of time, well,
How would you know?
how do you know where the stops are?
Yeah, how do you know
Yeah.
the bus turn?
Well, so if we have automated stop announcements with the correct geo fence around the stop,
Yeah.
then it's gonna call the stop in appropriate time for you to be able to pull
Oh,
it forward.
okay.
Um,
I was just thinking like on a subway, it doesn't matter how they turn and all of that. It's just a
Right.
straight line and it's, these are
Yeah.
the names of your
Yeah.
bus.
Subway
stops and
system,
stuff,
yeah.
the pictures.
Yep, so we did that. We also did the technology assessment with a couple of, well, one was from ODOT and the other one was from Trillium. And they came down and talked at length with Randy and I about the various different types of technology we currently have, what we're looking to get, what our challenges are, all that kind of stuff. And then they talked with everybody that was on site that day. So they talked with drivers, they talked with Crystal, who does all of our data for the revenue service hours and miles and trips and all that kind of stuff. So they said,
Electronic fare box,
uh-huh,
that's what we gotta get.
then she's a keeper. And then the next pages after the information about the buses, this we call it a backgrounder. This is OTA is doing one of these for every transit agency that turned in their information. And it is basically showcasing what we have done with our STIF funds that we've received so far. And so the only thing that I found that needed to be corrected in this is it says weekday ridership by mode. And that is actually our weekly ridership by mode. So it makes it look as though we have a lot more rides than we do. And
Awesome.
I left the picture of the South Lane Wheels bus at the bottom there because they wanted to showcase that we have partnerships with other counties.
Who else is that going out to, Cheryl?
It is going out to every senator and House of Representatives, every representative in the House at the next legislative session. Yeah. So what this is to do, it is to start the discussion. Originally, when the STIP funding was put into place, it was we were going to do 1% of a or 1/10% of a payroll tax to start with, and then after it was implemented and running for a while, then they were going to move to 0.3%. So if they increased by even 0.1% to 0.2%, that would basically double our operating budget, which would be huge. It would make a lot of opportunities to implement routes that we never even thought of before, we could just.
Speak for yourself.
Oh,
I thought.
Yeah, this is where microtransit comes in.
So I was been thinking about is the microtransit, because I went with Mike to his meeting that they had for, it was a
It was a Transportation Research Board National Conference and
yeah, it was a national conference, and so I went to.
I was there, I'm like, hey, just show up. No, they don't care.
Yeah, I went, no, nobody cares. So I went there as a up TD representative, I guess. So I went there and they were talking about microtransit and how well it works, and it's free. And they go within, some of them are like within a 5-mile radius. Like, what if my parents, they live up in Hillcrest and they want to just go to down to the store because they can't drive.
right.
And it's just, that's all they want to do. Instead of
waiting for a taxi shows up, have to pay them, we have to have them wait for them, and it's expensive for people. This little.
It's
System.
microtransit, but neighborhood circulators basically is what they are.
Neighborhood
that they drive.
circulators, just within a short, small area, that's all they do. You know, just back and forth.
Kind of like an ice cream truck.
Kind of like
Yeah.
that, and they just provide
it.
transportation.
Better
and they-
music though.
And they have them in sections in there, you know, and this person's doing this and, you know, and they switch out. So it just gives you another layer of people that don't have to wait for a bus to go down and do the whole route just so they can go to the store.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. That's
So
amazing.
they said it worked phenomenal
Yes.
for them, and people can just call, they pick them up, take them down, it's boom, boom, boom. Kids that need to go to school, whatever.
That's something that we've been doing some research on,
Yeah.
especially since we went to the CTAA conference in
Yeah,
May.
It's super exciting.
They had some really good demonstrations of different types of software
Yeah.
that would work in conjunction with our current software for paratransit and demand response. So basically what it would do is make the open seats available. So they'd be able to see that there's a vehicle in the area, sort of like when you open up Uber or Lyft, you know,
Mhm.
closest vehicle is 7 minutes away or 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's what this was. They said they called it the Uber or Lyft for transit because it
Yeah.
takes a transit app that you can call.
Yeah,
I
Tell
guess it would
exactly where
compete
it's
with
at
those
and-
guys, you
Yeah.
know, but it would be for people that, you know, especially
Can't afford those
especially
guys.
who people can't afford that.
Because Uber and Lyft are expensive.
Yes, and so our people that can't afford that would have some way to get, like a kid needs to get to school.
Yeah,
But
it's a
mom
c-
doesn't drive or whatever, she's at
Different
work.
population
If it's an
entirely.
older kid, you know, just wants to get to school, they don't have to walk and put themselves in danger.
And people are used to using apps now.
yes, they are.
So, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you know, it recently in the news that there was a girl walking from work to home and she was abducted. A horrible story. And I was thinking of her, what if there was somebody
Yeah.
there to pick her up and take her home? She
Yeah.
would have been safe.
What's
So-
unfortunate is our bus stops at her place of work
Mm.
at least once an hour.
Yeah, and she could have taken it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it goes both directions.
I heard that our video helped catch the killer.
It did?
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
so anyway, I was thinking of that sort of thing, less kids walking by themselves or anyone.
Yeah.
Would be safer for our community.
Yeah,
Yes.
pedestrian is dangerous.
Yes.
So the bicycle is dangerous down here.
See if you can get and run over.
Driving is dangerous now.
So the other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is the ridership numbers. So we have seen month over month increases.
That's a big increase.
Yeah. So some of it is probably due to weather, but some of it is also due to the drop in the fare. So even though we are, collecting a smaller fare, our fare box revenue is actually increasing. So that's a good thing. So that rolling number for the total ridership for the fixed route buses, pre-COVID, that was over 100,000. So we're getting on the right track with being at about 7,000 rides for the month. When we get closer to 9,000 or 10,000 rides for the month for the fixed route transit, fixed and commuter route, then we will be back to where we were pre-COVID for like 3 years before COVID. So.
Well, that's a significant increase. That's good.
Yes, so I believe she said 67%. Yes, if you look at the next page, she's got that highlighted and view. The difference is 2,800 rides. And then the Saturday service is up to 348 rides in the month of August. So that is also growing at a good pace. And then, of course, the last page is our paratransit and Umpqua rides. So one of the things that we had talked about when we were discussing free fare is the way that the dial-a-ride and the paratransit were like laid on top of each other and almost like a competitive service.
Mhm.
And so we have worked extensively with the dispatchers and I have to say I went on a rant and and I just pointed out, you know, that this is what we've been talking about and this is absolutely not acceptable. And I just put it out there, you know, if you can't schedule the rides the way they're supposed to be scheduled, then we can't keep you. Because every time that we're scheduling a free ride in a paratransit service area, that it's designated as a fare, that's an opportunity for a lawsuit.
Mhm.
And we just can't have this. And so we went from over 500 rides a month being scheduled as dial-a-ride in the paratransit service area to, I think there were only, well, for rides, we had 69 rides that were the dial-a-ride rides provided by our drivers. And those rides were provided in South County, so they were appropriately scheduled. So that it took
Good, yeah, because there was a lot of duplication.
I was wondering why that number is so different.
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we had 1,100 rides in December
Mhm.
and down to 69.
So it should have been scheduled as basically free rides, but they're being,
They were
that's what you're saying.
scheduling them as free rides when they should have been fare.
Oh,
The paratransit fare rides.
okay.
Yep. So you can see the flip there. In December, we had 1,100 free rides, and then in August, we had 1,055 paratransit rides. And in the event that somebody is not able to pay for their ride, we make sure that they have resources to be able to ensure that they can still get where they need to go. So the drivers carry donated tickets and they make sure that nobody gets left stranded.
Like that.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, how come in March, the Winston Sullivan from February was 409, March was 72, then 829, was that just a misprint?
No, so in March, we changed the Winston and Sutherland were separate routes that were interlined with a fixed route orange line in through Roseburg. And what we did is we increased the service to hourly so that they're now fixed route.
Oh, okay.
And so they're not commuter anymore. And they go hourly from Winston, they go from Washington and Rose to Winston and Willard. And then back to Washington and Rose every single hour. And the one for Sutherland goes from UCC up to Sutherland and to Oakland. And we added additional stops on the other side of the freeway that we didn't have before. So there's something else that, just to give you a heads up, I do have somebody that has been contacting me, asking me to change our path of travel in Sutherland to service the homeless camp that they have
Set up, yeah.
Mhm. The challenge with that is, when we went through the process of deciding the path of travel for City of Sutherland, we had a lot of rider input and we had input from the city council and from the TSP process, transportation system plan for City of Sutherland. And their request was that we make a stop so that Arenco could be serviced, because there are a lot of people that ride the bus that
Well,
work there.
that was then and this is now. Now we have a homeless camp that needs serviced.
Right, so we cannot just change our path of travel. Technically, they are within the service area because it is less than a half a mile from the homeless camp to this stop over on Comstock and Duke, or up the street to this stop, which is on Central and
Is it a formalized homeless camp? I'm not sure what we're talking about, but
Mhm.
is it
Yeah.
formalized? I
Yes.
mean, they said, okay, this is officially a spot for, that we're allowing.
So there's where we need micro transit.
Yeah, or if they're not able to walk a half a mile to the
Yeah.
bus stop, then they need to qualify for paratransit because we have
Have you
paratransit in
talked
that
to
area.
them about that? This person that's contacting you and explain that?
I have not.
Because I think that we need to come up with a solution because a lot of the people that are homeless and all that, not real agile.
Yeah. But we can't change our path of travel.
Well, if we can't change our path of travel, then we need to change a thought that's coming
Mhm.
and how we're gonna support them, not just be a bureaucracy.
Outreach is what I think you're talking about and how they can obtain services.
Okay,
Yeah, right. Is that what- I mean, that's what we're talking about, is letting them know how they can get service.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, more education
Yeah.
and this coordinator
Which takes a
person.
special kind of outreach for that type of population. Yeah.
Well, they have a spokesperson that's calling Cheryl, and so that just means that we need to have a pamphlet or sit down with them to educate them on how it works. It's certainly not me.
Well,
That-
the other piece that I could do is a cost analysis. If we were to change the route, number one, it's no longer gonna be hourly service. So that changes the type of service where they just got hourly service. And so it
And hourly
changes.
service for people who have jobs is important. So
Mhm.
I agree.
I would keep what you have. I would just work on, like Kat was saying, just some outreach to them and just how they can access the service. What would they need to do? How do they get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Because you could also do like a flag stop, right? Or whatever they call it, a special thing too, if you had to stop or
well, so,
at least to let them off.
It's off route, right?
yeah.
Oh, is it off
it's-
route? Okay,
it's a-
okay.
it's a-
sorry, I thought it was off
A
route.
half a mile, and I'm not gonna walk a half a mile.
Well,
I'm
so,
60 something, I'm like 25%. 25.2%.
right
Yes,
now,
and that's what I said, micro transit.
right now, if I ride the bus, I walk over a mile to the bus stop.
God,
When I lived over in Winston, if I rode the bus, it was just about half a mile off of Winston section road over to the stop on 42. So,
I understand that it's normal for young and sprightly people.
I am not young or sprightly. But when it's a necessity, it's, we do what we do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would just make sure they know how to access the service.
Mhm.
and stuff.
What trying to do. show
And if they
them
can't walk,
Then there are ways that.
Right,
they-
and how do they do that? How do they share that with the population?
Yeah.
What do we need to help provide them so that they can provide to those that show up? that
So
can't
we
do it
can
because it's
definitely
painting?
provide them with schedules and flyers for how to access the call center for,
Mhm.
and the paratransit rides, things of that nature. Because paratransit, they would have to qualify for paratransit. 'Cause
I have a
they're-
feeling that a good portion of them can.
Yeah,
If they have a bulletin board or something on their camp, you could put information there
Mhm.
as well,
Oh, I never even thought of that.
Under glass.
I would.
including a map or something.
Or, or a little card that has some phone numbers and web addresses or
Mhm.
something. that they
Yeah.
can-
Business cards stand out.
Yeah.
They can put in your pocket.
Well, yeah, it's definitely something to put some.
You just have
some
to
thought
figure
into
out, yeah, you just have to, it's a different demographic to reach out to. We're doing a plan on Diamond Lake Boulevard here. But that's part of our outreach is to the homeless population and stuff, because, it'll focus mostly on bike and ped and a little bit transit, but. They're the ones that use the services quite a bit here too, so,
People don't want to see them downtown, but they have to get to services.
Yeah.
And if we move them out in the boonies, we have to be able to provide a way to get them to services.
And transit's a critical component for homeless.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Cheryl, do you still sit on the Lipsick Housing Subcommittee, or is that even still a thing?
I was not on that committee.
Oh,
That they are still a thing.
are they?
Chris Boyce, I heard some discussion about it this last week. So I think Dane Zonner and Betsy Cunningham.
I
So
used to
they-
sit on it, and that would be a good place to share some of that
Information.
resource.
And maybe it's put on 211, you know, some of those numbers that they call so that they know to refer to Umpqua Transit or something like that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, any questions on anything else for the, we did interviews and we're hiring 3 demand response drivers and 2 fixed route bus drivers, CDL drivers. So that has been a time intensive thing this last month for a lot of staff. And we're gonna get them in and do training here in this next week, starting on tomorrow. We hire orientation for the first one.
Are we having a lot of turnover?
Not so much turnover as we have, well, we did have one person that left and one person that retired. But then we have a couple that are out on disability. So that always is an impact. And a couple that are out on workman's comp. And so they're still on the roster, they're still employees, but you know, it's like not having an employee.
Yeah, those routes aren't being serviced,
So, yeah, we don't have
we
enough,
need more reserve.
Yeah.
Kind of part-time people.
definitely need more backup drivers, but also we're at a point where to implement the changes that we've talked about doing, which one of them is increasing the frequency of the Roseburg route. You know, we've added the additional hours to extend earlier and later in the day, but to increase that service, we need to have at least 2 more drivers, you know, to drive the one for the morning, one for the afternoon. And that's the last bus, you know, that's the final bus.
The bus stops here.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is changing the route to go out to Sunshine Park. And that's slated to start in October. We're just nailing down the timeline for the route, and then it would stop at the one on Pomona, but they actually haven't got the turnaround built yet. So until they complete the turnaround, we really can't go up there. There's no place to go up and turn around, you know, without doing backing into the street. you
Are
know,
they doing
which
just, is that what it literally is, a turnaround, a little median in the middle, or is it a?
There will be
Okay.
a built-in where you come off the road, hit the shelter, and then pull back onto the
You don't want
road.
to do backing at all?
We don't back.
I want a roundabout.
There was
We
one
don't
route in
have
Portland
enough
that I
roundabouts.
drove where we had an official spot. It was the only place where we did backing, and they had little signposts to help the bus driver to do it there.
Yeah, like a little mirror or something, or?
No, it was just like a little pole. It's like you knew you had a pole in this way. It was up in the West Hills, right, line 15, they had like 3 ends. This is one of the ends, but it was up in a rich neighborhood. So yeah, you pull up, they line up with this thing back there. It wasn't like an officially constructed thing, it was just a power pole, but it was in the pamphlet. So you knew how to back up, you line up with that, backed up, then you can turn around. But I mean, they did that without a turnaround.
Yeah.
You know, they just get provided guidance and the drivers basically.
We had a turnaround on the court out off of Looking Glass. Where the,
Apartments?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
where the, it's after Looking Glass Apartments, and I can't think of the name of the street now.
Like broccoli? or-
Toby Court.
Toby.
So we would go up to the court, turn around at the top, and then come back down, and our stop was at the apartments on the right hand side. And we did that for years, and then they started building houses in the court. And then, you know, people were parking in the court, and then kids were playing in the court, and then there was a basketball hoop. And then, so it became where you couldn't make the turnaround, but we still had to stop there. So we would go up and we would do the 3-point turn. And I got a phone call from one of the ladies that lived in one of the houses there. I'm sorry, it's not that funny, but it's really kind of funny. She was just in tears. I felt so bad for her. And she's like, can you please stop backing those buses up? I have to get sleep,
Oh.
but you're waking me up.
The people.
every day." Yes, so I felt bad for her. But now, you know, in hindsight, it's amusing.
We used to have, cul-de-sacs in the cities kind of, some of it. We had to ban basketball hoops in the cul-de-sacs and stuff in the city of Roseburg because the fire department, they come in there, they end up hooking the basketball hoops up in their ladder.
Yeah, I was talking about that, they banned parking in a certain area, and we also didn't go there after 10 PM.
Oh, yeah,
Because of the beeping.
See her out the window?
Yeah, she's watching us.
yeah. It
She's
knows
like
Andy.
this. She's like, there's more people in there.
Yeah.
Well, usually she probably sees a
What is that?
reflection.
Anyway.
It's just a fawn.
It's a fawn.
Oh, is it Sierra?
Standing on the bank.
You might-
Fail. She's not quite an Appaloosa.
So the other thing that I did do is I met with Jeannie Wright and Kathy Schaefer from Senior Services, Douglas County Senior Services. And they have, that's one of the reasons we need more drivers too. They have requested that we try to find a way to help seniors get to the dining sites in Glendale,
That's good.
Glide, and there were a number, I wrote all of them down, of communities where it would require a driver that is able to be out from like 10 in the morning to do a pickup and take them to the site. The driver would be able to stay and have lunch and then take them back to drop them off. So the dining site
Like a band
closes.
or something.
Yeah. So if we can
You get to
schedule,
drive and go have lunch.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Not a bad job.
Do I get the mileage?
well, and then if we can schedule a van that is in that area for the day, then we can continue, you know, just keep the
Circulating,
driver there and let them do local rides.
Mhm.
So if we can do that in Glendale, Glide, and
Goodness,
there was one.
some
other
others not I-5 county.
Was it Oakland?
Elkton, maybe?
Elkton, Drain, Elkton, Yoncalla area. But I believe that those folks are still getting their transportation from NDB. Even though, yeah. So I don't know about.
Well,
that.
they don't operate very long, much anyway.
So that was a good meeting and good insight, and we're gonna work together to get information out and get them a dedicated driver for those days to get people to the dining sites,
That's awesome. That would be great.
scheduled time in those areas. Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay, any other questions for Cheryl?
Do we need to do anything to look into that rehab thing, or is that just? already-
Oh, I'll look into it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on my agenda.
When are we gonna have Tom talk to us about the hydrogen
I didn't-
cell stuff?
I wasn't, not the hydrogen thing, but
Oh, whichever, what,
it's overhead power line. I looked into it. And there's only one manufacturer in the United States and only 2 transit systems currently used. It used to be a lot more. But I'm not sure it really worked too well down here. There's a lot of, or something, probably you know better than me, but some of the roads up in Portland are owned by the state of Oregon,
Mhm.
It's probably similar to Roseburg. And so it could just be really complicated, extremely complicated process, and then there's a whole nice.
but is it worth it to invest the time and energy?
I mean, maybe just look into it at least a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Well, that's what I think.
it's a possibility. I mean,
Because
like the
like a-
hydrogen thing, but there's more potential barriers, because when you just have like a bus that can run just by itself. You have to like inquire with all these agencies, because you have to build power poles and overhead wires and stuff.
Well, we might get a grant with the infrastructure bill.
I mean, I know like in Portland, like with Framet, it took them really, that was the main reason they actually didn't put the newest, they have a new, what do you call it, any flex in the middle, high capacity
Oh,
bus,
yeah.
Articulate.
called rapid transit or bus
Bus
rapid transit.
rapid transit.
BRT line. Anyway, yeah, it goes to Gresham, but the main reason they go down Powell is because of the difficulty working in the state of Oregon. 'Cause that's Powell Boulevard is also a state highway,
Mhm.
and so there could be some pretty serious barriers, but yeah, you could look into it. But there's a lot of barriers though, from those.
Well, that's what I was saying is that we haven't done anything like really outstanding where somebody say,
Yeah.
did you see what UPTD
There's
did?
a lot of benefits to doing that system.
We're in the pamphlet. OTA.
I tell you what, by the time that we finish this project next door, there's gonna be some eyes open. Yeah.
Well, good, let's not just stop there, let's really bloom.
Oh, yeah. Well, Randy and I are both going to
There's Randy.
the Zero Emission Bus Conference. Yeah, so we will be down there next week and we will get tours of facilities that are actually operating battery electric buses and also hydrogen fuel cell buses. And we're going to be able to network with the different companies that that provide those.
Where is that?
Anaheim.
Can they get a chassis?
Yeah, how's it like the chassis then?
The tickets, can we go?
Next one, because we have employees on the,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, that I just,
next house.
because I didn't bring them in.
We have a surprise for you.
So those are not open to public or board members, only,
They're, yeah, I mean, they're open to everyone as far as I know. There are other green kinds of displays going on, not just transit. So, but I didn't actually look into what the other displays are. So
and when is it?
next week,
Next week.
yeah, I leave Sunday.
And like the other issue with trolley buses is they manufactured primarily for larger transit time.
On Sunday, we are having
Well, we cover a lot of.
I mean, they're big buses.
Saturday.
So if we
Yeah.
want small buses, there's nobody manufacturing.
Saturday.
Well, maybe we need to build a manufacturing plant. I can set up a corporation overnight.
Saturday, the 17th. So this next Saturday, River Forks Park, we're having the company picnic. So if you guys are interested in coming, you are more than welcome to join us.
Where was it at?
River Forks.
You said Saturday the 16th?
17th, this
17th.
coming Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday, the 17th, yes. And yes, I did say the 16th.
What time was it?
Well, we're gonna start at like 11, but
All
it's
these sort of, like,
it's supposed to be cool, so it's like 70 degrees, so I don't know how long people will last. But we're gonna provide food and games and awards and stuff.
those people.
Good.
Yeah. It'll be great fun.
You didn't say the time, right?
Oh, 11 to 4.
No, she didn't.
Okay, we ready to move on to Jennifer?
Oh, Jennifer, yes.
Oh, hi, Jennifer.
Hello. Not that I'm not enjoying your stimulating conversation, but I've been working since 6:30 this morning. So, what we have going on is the STIF discretionary was released on Friday. Letters of interest are due October 14th if you're wanting one of those grants. We are going to be releasing the 5310, 5311, and 5304 grant applications on October 4th, 5th, right around there. We will have a regional training in Grants Pass on October 19th. And that'll be for Region 3 and 2A, 2B, 2B, and probably part of Region 4. And October 25th, there'll be one in Salem, and it's going to be a joint Region 2 and Region 1 training. National Transit Database reporting is going to be due October 14th. They should be releasing the reporting forms by the end of this week. So I want to make sure you get that in. And then we have a whole herd of jobs at ODOT PTD. If you know of anybody who's looking for a job, we are down to 3 RTCs. So I'm going to be covering Region 3, Region 2B, and probably half of Region 4. So I'm going to get really busy.
Well, Jennifer, there's another 12 hours in the day, so you have a little more time.
Yeah.
Could we pass a bill?
Any questions?
When do you have time to answer?
If you're looking at microtransit, you want to talk to RBTD. They did a pilot project last discretionary round, so definitely talk to them about it. They're not continuing that project, so I'm not sure exactly what all they found, but definitely want to talk to them. Scott has like a modified microtransit type program, so he also would be a good one to talk to. Did you have a question for me, did you say? Sorry.
No,
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Jennifer.
You guys hear me?
yes, I hear you now.
Oh, weird. I was unmuted, but it, I guess, muted me on its own. Okay, any other questions for Jennifer? We'll move on to not on agenda. Does anybody have any not on agenda items? Okay, moving on to public comment. Any
No
public
public's
comment?
here.
Anybody online?
Nope.
Okay, agenda build.
There's that.
I guess we're all tired.
I
Megan's agenda build.
guess.
Yeah.
Just runs very.
Ron
Yeah.
will be given the, yeah.
So it'd be a short meeting. And
Yeah.
I'm sure
Cheryl,
we'll come up with a.
Cheryl will tell us all about Anaheim.
Yes, yes, I will.
If I can't get there, I want to hear, I want pictures.
Okay,
Yeah, she might.
so I'll be within walking distance of Disneyland. Yes. And I'll arrive early enough in the day that I could go on Sunday.
Ooh, good plan, good plan.
Okay, anything else?
I
All
don't think
right,
so.
we are adjourned. We will see everybody on October 10th.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.